Thanks for tuning in to another MYD Global episode. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. This episode, we feature Virgin, Unite, and the work they are doing with Unite BVI in the British Virgin Islands. Our guest is Kim Takeuchi, and she is the program manager there. And Kim was actually on Virgin Gorda when the hurricane happened 2 years ago today. So stay tuned for the episode, and you'll notice this one's a little different because the connectivity between myself and Kim was rather slow, so I was only able to get her on video for part of it, and the rest just audio. So do stay tuned because she's got some great advice for those that are going through hurricanes right now, and things she learned, lessons, successes, and so stay tuned. Welcome everyone back to another episode of the MYD Global, and we have a special guest today all the way from the British Virgin Islands, and her name is Kim Takeuchi. Kim, thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Kim, can you just tell us a little bit I know you work for Unite BVI, and can you tell me a little bit just about yourself?
Hi, my name's Kim. I am from the Unite BVI. I'm the programs manager. I am generally a great lover of life. I've been in the BVI for about 16 years now, and I've got 2 kids. I'm a big kiteboarder, and I love anything to do with the ocean.
Awesome. So where were you when Hurricane Irma hit? And I know the day we're taping this, it's actually 2 years to the date. Just curious where you were.
I was in a private villa just on the north side of Virgin Gorda. We'd actually prepared quite well. I was in a concrete building. We had hurricane shutters. We had food and water. We had a satellite phone. We were ready to hunker down. And for the first part of the storm, I would say we were in a great place. No trouble or panic. It was when this wind shifted and the north side came at us that we noticed a great change, even within the building. We could feel the wind increasing, and I think looking back now, we've discovered that the installation of the hurricane shutters was probably too close to the windows, and the intensity of the wind actually bent the hurricane shutters so that they were bashing against the glass. And it was just before, I remember so distinctively, before the first window broke, the suction of the air out, our ears popped. We really felt an intensity, and one window popped, and then it was a quick time afterwards where every other window completely smashed. So we went from being in a really great, secure environment so quickly into being, amongst shattered glass with children, and we were stuffed ourselves into a pantry. So we had 3 kids, 5 adults. So sent to a pantry full of ketchup bottles and fish sauce and pasta noodles, and the kids were meshed into the shelves, and we had a mattress that was holding up against us and just waiting for the storm to pass. It was during that time, though, I wouldn't say I was really scared. I was really good people, but I was absolutely bewildered by the amount of noise. There was a kitchen top that had just broken off, a stainless steel kitchen top that had partially fell from the counter, and it was smashing against the kitchen, and it was like a cymbal against the head in terms of the noise. The kitchen cupboards opened up. There was plates filing out like playing cards across the floor, just breaking everything. The curtain, the blue curtain that was near us was being worked so much that after the fact, the entire kitchen was covered in this blue film where all the fiber and the fabric had just become almost liquidized. So I think at that point, we knew we were in a fairly intense situation. When it was all over and the wind had died down, we did a quick survey of the property, and that's the exact time when everything changed.
Yeah.
Nothing was the same after that.
Yeah. So you work with Unite BVI. Can you just tell me specifically about some of the work you've been doing this past year?
I was very grateful and fortunate to be working for Unite BVI Foundation before the storm. So we had a really good base that where we were able to springboard and mobilize quickly while on the ground. The essence of Unite BVI Foundation is about bringing resources, needs, and great ideas together with trusted partnership for the impact of the BVI. So nothing could really suit the cause better than having a really open, wide-ranging foundation that was specifically focused here for the work that needed to be done. So prior to the storm, we didn't focus on just one cause. We supported local entrepreneurs. We invested in education. We addressed public health and social welfare issues. We had many different projects on the go. So you can imagine when it comes to recovery, there's so many different projects that are required that we were able to, have the infrastructure already in place.
Great. So I know when I was there in December of last year, I had a chance to see some of the work you guys were doing on Virgin Gorda. And I'm just curious, are there specific, I know it was the school in particular that I toured. Mm-hmm. What are the types of projects you guys have been doing post Hurricane Irma?
Sure. Well, in 2018, we gave out over 35 grants that varied from waste and debris clearance to supporting entrepreneurs by providing small business loans, to youth programming and restoring and enriching education. So we have a huge repertoire of projects that we've been working on. The strategy that we took was, one, to try to respond to immediate needs, and two, to respond with solutions that address long-term sustainability for the recovery. So for an example, one would be like an enriching education, where the immediate needs, we would procure Chromebook computers. So we managed to work out a donor collective where we brought in some partners, and we're able to procure Chromebooks for every senior student in the territory that's on the CXC system. So that one of the great accolades that we were able to sort of report in a time of devastation with our BVI government was able to, and the Ministry of Education was able to do 100% of online e-testing for their final exams. That was unprecedented, still is within the Caribbean. And, the BVI, even though we were under this, half-term shift system of education, we still were able to be one of the leaders in technology and education, strides in technology and education. So at the moment, we're at about 835 Chrome arrived into the territory, which is great. So that, in terms of like a short-term solution, that was really great. It addressed the needs, the immediate needs at the moment. And then the long-term solution was what you saw, the rebuilding of green schools. So we were able to restore one of the major buildings that was damaged at the Brigado Flax Educational Center on Virgin Gorda, the largest public high school. And that building we have just handed over literally last week. And so that building is now 12 classrooms that are available. And it's, by no means is it completed and the school is completely restored. We've been able to do one of 4 buildings, but that one building will now allow students enough space for students to return to full-time classes. And that will be across the territory as well.
Yeah, I know when I was there, I recall them saying that kids would come for half days because you just couldn't accommodate them all. So some would come in the morning, some would come in the afternoon, and the roof was off at the time. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times when disasters like this hit, people don't realize how many impacts there really are, to families, to kids, to teachers, to businesses. And so obviously, and then when you're remote, when you're an island, it's that much more stressful because getting equipment and stuff to rebuild is that much more challenging.
Absolutely. Teachers lost everything at home, and then they had to come to school and teach a class where they had nothing in their class. And every time it rains, it pours into the classroom. And, it was, circumstances beyond what you could ever, think somebody in Canada would be doing. It would never be permitted to do something like that. But you had to get life back on track again. And I think that really shows the resiliency of people here under such circumstances. Return to normal life, and normal in quotation marks, was method of recovery. You had to just keep going.
So if I'm watching this and I'm hearing that the need is still there in BVI, how could I, as an individual or a business, help you guys? Is there a way to help you out?
I think the most important parts of the recovery right now are really stemming back to funding and resource. I think there's just, when you look at the amount of devastation, 7 out of 10 homes were destroyed, 18 out of 20 schools, public schools, were also, suffered incredible infrastructure damage. The amount and the need is certainly far exceeds the resources. I know we are actively working with other organizations trying to fundraise and pool funding so that we have high impact philanthropy happening. We're filling the gaps. We're working with government as much as we can to identify the gaps and to work so that we are working in conjunction with government as much as possible. From an international standpoint, returning to the BVI, helping our tourism industry get back on track, helps bring funding into the territory, essential funding into the territory. So certainly that, come on holiday to the BVI, we certainly welcome that. We prioritize the recovery of tourist areas in order to keep the economy going. So I think that's something that, that strategy is supported by government as well. I think anybody that knows somebody in the BVI, has a special place for this area of the world. So certainly just, having people reach out to organizations on the ground always helps.
Yeah.
Like giving the exposure to the cause as well is another, major help.
For sure, and I think that's the thing when you see pictures or hear people on the ground that are saying, you know what, we understand there's all kinds of disasters that have happened since Irma, but still the recovery period takes many years, and it's not back to normal 100% yet. There's still work to be done, and so appealing to people and letting them know that there are ways to still help, whether it's in a volunteer capacity or whether it's sending money, donating online. Do you have an online donation piece on your website, or how does that work?
Yeah, information's on our website on how to donate, and there's a contact us at unitebvi.com email address that if you have any other resources or thoughts on how we can recover, we're open to all feedback and questions as well. So we welcome all interaction.
Yeah. So just as background too, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, your background? What brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I was working for the hospitality sector, made my way over to Little Dix Bay, which is on Virgin Gorda, and absolutely fell in love with that island. As I said, 16 years ago was my first footstep on Virgin Gorda, and I couldn't say enough good things about the community. I think I'm so lucky to find a place that that fit my lifestyle in terms of just being around the ocean and being with a great community of people that care about each other. There was some certain aspects of Irma were devastating, and certain aspects of it were so beautiful. Just being able to see, goodness of people and a community coming together to take care of each other. That's very rare in this day and age.
I think disasters do bring out the best and the worst in people, unfortunately. But yeah, when it sometimes takes something like that to really bring people together. And that's the positive side of it. If I was watching too, and I mean, you guys are 2 years into this now. If I'm watching, say I was in the Bahamas right now, and you had some advice to give to people in similar types of roles as yours, what would you be telling them? Would you any things successes, lessons you learned, what you would do better, different, the same?
Yes, absolutely. I would, well, if you're in the area, preparation is everything. I think, yeah, the more preparation you can do, the better. Don't take it for granted that it might go a different way. Assume that it's coming at you. And then, as in the case of Dorian and the Abaco disaster, I actually am in contact with a few people on the ground, just helping to consult and share information that we learned. And there's two main things that I've really worked on with them that I'm hoping, we're agreeing or working. One is to establish procedure that complies with on-the-ground government regulation.
Yeah.
We here in the BVI lost a lot of support from international aid because there was miscommunication, there was interaction that wasn't supportive, there was lack of process. And in the end, we lost those international organizations because they were so frustrated with not understanding how to work with on the ground government. And our on the ground, we were so frustrated because it was, who were these people coming in? And, it was just a lack of bridging the resource and the need. And I think that was something that in a case of a disaster, if a government already has that prepared and they can give that to international aid and international organizations and donors, then that gets them 3 steps ahead. It makes the process a lot smoother and you can work with the government that's already there. The second one was I've been advising this woman on the ground who's had a long history in disaster management. I said, you should really lean on your local nonprofits. They're used to operating on a shoestring. They are super resourceful. They have procedure to accept donations and they can account for every dollar. The majority of the community support appeal funds for Virgin Unite was donated within the first 2 weeks of the storm. And without having that one centralized collection, we would have, again, lost a lot of potential resource that as now, every dollar is so incredibly essential for the recovery. So I think, the quicker that Abaco can get that established, more people are want to give, and you really have to capture that timing that, you don't have that long to really capture the potential of that fundraising opportunity. And certainly when you're in the middle of it, you don't, that's the last thing you're thinking of, you're thinking of survival and, having an organization that can help you get ahead, or a local NGO that can help you get ahead. I think that that helps dramatically.
Yeah, and I know all the studies that I've seen when they look at disaster philanthropy, a lot of a significant percentage does go to the response phase, because that's when people are seeing videos, they're seeing stuff on the news, and they're really motivated. But yet, what happens is it drastically falls off on the kind of the preparedness and the recovery piece. And so then you struggle after, going, now what do? We have no money for this kind of stuff, and it's important. So, even having those discussions up front, making sure people understand, give your money now, have some strings that don't attach it specifically to all response, because you're going to need it later. So, and the challenge we always find in the work that I do is businesses are always the last ones thought of. Because many times you can't give money to businesses, for-profit businesses, right? So then they struggle even more. So it's almost like an onion, right? It's just you peel back and it's so complicated. Anything you can do, like the advice you're giving the Bahamas right now, that's important. It's like, think about what's what's going to come in 2 years. Like, you've walked that path, and so. I think most people like you and I, that's why we do what we do. It's like, I want to pay it forward. I don't want you to go through what I went through, because it's not necessary.
Yeah, agreed. And learning from the experience certainly makes you wiser. If that was to happen again, we would do things slightly differently. But I really liked your point on small business and really helping the economy. One of the some of the investments that we've done that we think that have helped dramatically was to create a small business loan program, the Kickstart loan program. And we did that almost within 6 months of the storm, trying to get small business back on track again. So anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 loans, interest-free, easy payback terms, trying to get that stimulated. We were able to finance some of that, and all of those loan businesses have been able to pay back. We have 100% payback terms right now, which has been fantastic. And then we've been upskilling. So you have, your market completely changes post-storm. And we had, our two sectors were marine sector and the construction sector really rose. So you couldn't find enough bodies to fill those positions. And yet, anybody in the service and hospitality industry were completely jobless. So we created a program immediately following the storm in conjunction with other partners and including the government to get those sectors, people unemployed back into those sectors safely and effectively. So speaking with the private sector and organizing, what skills do people need to enter the job market in these markets, and provided courses, free courses for those people to jump in. So upskilling, small business loans, anything to stimulate the economy, we're really, and especially now, we'll be doing in the, looking forward in 2020, we'll be doing a lot of work in supporting entrepreneurs and new business sectors.
That's fantastic, because that's what we find. I know that the stats I see, it's 1 in 4 businesses won't reopen after a disaster. And so you think, okay, that's 25% of your business community. If they go under, where do they go? Do they leave? I mean, you probably saw an exodus of some people that may not come back. So, to bring a new business there is tough. So anything you can do to foster that entrepreneurship, to help give businesses a hand up, that's huge. So, I mean, kudos to you guys for doing that. That's great. Is there anything else just before we wrap up that you think you'd like to say or tell people, or?
I was, especially for, in the case of Dorian and the Bahamas, I was thinking about ways that, if you haven't been in the experience, how can you best help? And, I think it's really wise to do some research, reach out to nonprofits and international organizations on how, and ask how you can help. I think a lot of times, and especially on the ground here, we received overwhelming amounts of resources in the immediate aftermath, but some of which wasn't essential at the time. And I think, there was a lot of double ups and gaps where we had big needs and we had over too much resource in one area and too little in other areas. And I think in the immediate aftermath, it's always good to find out, what is required on the ground before just starting to give, because each of those, donations also required, a lot of money to ship it down to the BVI, and that money could have gone to different use. I think probably if we had been able just to collect that, and so just to be smart about that donation. If you're encouraged and inspired to give, we definitely just. There's ways to go about doing it that can help more. Speaking to people on the ground is always a good one. But
yeah. No, that's great advice. And I think, we've heard too, cash is king when it comes to disasters, because, those groups are on the ground, they're operating, they need to buy water, food, whatever it is. So yeah, that's great advice. So Kim, I love what you guys are doing at Unite BVI. I'm gonna, on the video in the description part, I'll put links to your website, how people can give and get in touch with you and your organization. And I continue to wish you all the best and hope that you don't have to experience anything like this ever again. But if something does happen, that you guys are way more prepared and resilient than you were 2 years ago. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. And so just to wrap up, for those of you watching, if you are interested in learning more about disasters, anything disaster, then just subscribe, and in the interim, stay safe. Thanks again, Kim.